Hello, my name is Allie Duzette, and I am an admin here at TRS, a Safe Heavy Metals Detox. And today I wanted to talk about what happens when you get detox symptoms. Should you increase your sprays or decrease your sprays? And this is a question that a lot of people have. The great thing about TRS is that you can take TRS and not have any detox symptoms, and that is the best. And so when people say I'm taking TRS, I'm not feeling any different, that's actually great because a lot of the healing that we do when we detox is internal. So you might not notice external changes right away. That's fine. But as we are detoxing, um, most people are going to have a really fun experience. Some people are going to have an increase in detox symptoms. So what are these detox symptoms? These detox symptoms can include things like headaches. Some people might feel like nauseated, that kind of thing. You might experience what's called retracing, which is when if you had an old injury, some of the pain from that might come back because, I'll just explain it really quick. What happens is when you have a toxic exposure, your white blood cells are the things that come and pick up the toxic gunk, okay? Your white blood cells try and take it away from wherever it started out, but your white blood cells are also in charge of scar tissue. They create your scar tissue. So when you have a toxic exposure, your white blood cells are the things grabbing that toxicity. Then they go and create the scars, and that's why when you detox, sometimes you might get like a retracing pain where people who had an epidural might have another pain where their epidural was. And that is because their body is detoxing from the epidural site, detoxing those same white blood cells that are now scar tissue. So I hope that makes sense. But today I wanted to talk about when you have an increase in detox symptoms when you start taking TRS. So before we even talk about that, we have to understand how toxicity works inside the body. And so I made up this very fun demonstration for you. These are my son's magic cards. They're in little sleeves. Magic the Gathering. It's a card game. So anyway, you can think of toxic exposure like this, okay? You go to the gas station and you breathe some toxic air, okay? And it lodges in your lungs. You have a little layer of toxicity in your lungs. And now you're gonna go to Walmart and get those little, do you remember there was those shoes that they were talking about that had lead in the soles and all these kids were getting lead poisoning from their shoes? Yeah, so you put on some toxic shoes, yucko, and here you go. You're gonna get another little toxic exposure from the pesticides in the food you eat. And actually you eat food every day, so you're gonna get a little bit more every time. That's from breakfast. Here's from lunch. Here's from dinner. Okay, and now we're going to have a toxic exposure from, you live near a farm and they just sprayed the fields, okay? They just sprayed it with some herbicides. And, oh, you went to the dentist. Oh, you got some mercury fillings. Here's another one. You got another filling, okay? So this is the stack of toxicity inside your body, okay? And we get exposed to toxicity in a lot of ways, right? And our body doesn't like it. Our body's sitting there saying, oh my gosh, you're poisoning me. Now what? What am I going to do? How am I going to survive this? Well, your body kind of creates a little wrapper around it. You see this is a little hair bow? I have 5 kids. Okay, so we put the little hair bow on and the body says, okay, we're just going to wrap it up and hopefully we're going to keep them all wrapped up and they're not going to hurt us. Okay, we're going to keep it up. And by the way, a lot of this is stored in our fat. So this can be one reason why you have trouble with weight loss is if your fat is full of toxins, because then your body does not want to let that toxicity out, right? Okay, so then we enter TRS. We know we have a health problem because we don't feel great. Our body is full of this yucky stuff. So we grab our TRS, we take our spray. So easy. And we know TRS is going to go on a cellular level and detox our toxicity, and we're going to pee it out about 6 hours later. That's the half-life of TRS. And but in the meantime, here's what's happening. TRS is going to go through and detox the first, like the easiest stuff to detox. Oh, what's that? That's the bow. That's the wrapper. And all of a sudden your body is like, oh my gosh, all these magic cards? I thought I wrapped those up. I thought I wasn't supposed to be exposed to this anymore. So then your body is starting to deal with this. Your TRS, your first spray, it just got rid of the outer wrapper. Goodbye. And now your body's dealing with this stuff. Okay? And so that's when you get the headache. That's when you start feeling yucky because your body is like, oh, wait, my toxicity that I thought I wrapped up. Uh-oh, what am I going to do now? Here is the secret. A lot of times people say, okay, you got to go low and slow. If you start feeling yucky, you better decrease your sprays so that you don't feel so yucky. Because then instead of taking off another layer at once, you're just going to remove like half of it. You know, you're just going to get rid of half of it, which is going to leave the rest of that pile still mostly covered, so there's less for your body to deal with on its own. And that's, to me, the real key here, is that when we take a small amount of sprays and start clearing out, you know, the body's original handiwork of trying to keep this stuff under wraps, our body, you know, it starts trying to do this on its own, and that's when we have problems. And so for me, I always say, take a ton more sprays. Go ahead, take 10 more sprays, take 20 more sprays. If you're getting a headache, if you're feeling some nausea or something, go and take a bunch more sprays, because what's going to happen is all of a sudden that TRS, you just take 20 more sprays, now it can take 20 more layers instead of just that one top layer. And now all of a sudden, you have a lot less to deal with. You didn't leave your body hanging. That's where the problem comes in my opinion, when we leave the body hanging. Because bodies are really good at detoxing, and the real problem is not that we're all bad at detoxing. The real problem is that we live in this toxic world. Like we have this comment here. Some toxins are unavoidable no matter how much we try to avoid them, unfortunately. Exactly. That is so true. Some really are. And especially in our modern world, like you can't avoid it when your neighbor sprays his yard with glyphosate. Like you have no control over that. But what you do have control over is basically like how much TRS you take at a time. If you're taking a small amount and having a hard time with it, a lot of times taking a bunch at once can just solve the problem. Goodbye. And it just clears it all out at once. And so you don't have the symptoms anymore. So I want to tell two quick stories about that. The first one is from one of my friends that started taking TRS, and she is extremely toxic. I don't even know all of her diagnoses, but she has like a laundry list of diagnoses. You know, the autoimmune this, autoimmune that. She has all this whole list. And it was to the point where she was so allergic to all of the food that she ate, she could only have like 6 foods, like fresh hunted venison and like wild Alaskan blueberries and like 2 other foods or something like that. And so she was very scared of TRS. And sure enough, when she would take TRS, the first spray, she got a headache and she felt so yucky. She said, I can't handle a whole spray, so I'm gonna cut it in half. And so what you can do is dilute your sprays. So like pour out half the bottle into a mason jar and store that for later, and fill the rest of your tiny bottle up with distilled water, and that would make a half spray. Or you could spray into a water bottle and just have like a sip every day, and that's going to be a really diluted amount. But what happened was, even on a really diluted amount, she was taking 1/8 of a spray, she didn't feel good. She felt worse. And so I told her all of this, and we decided to muscle test on it, which is a way that you can, basically you just ask your body, like, how many sprays should I take to help me clear this out in a way that's comfortable instead of uncomfortable? And what we got was 41 sprays. Oh, and so she was terrified, but she gave it a try, and she took the 41 sprays at once, expecting to feel horrible, and she didn't. She felt awesome. She felt fine, and she had no detox symptoms. Now, another friend of mine had retracing impetigo. So basically what happened was, she started taking TRS and she started detoxing, and her skin was having this impetigo reaction. She'd previously had impetigo, and sometimes what happens is we start detoxing and our body's finally like, yes, hooray, like now I can finally get rid of the tail end of this infection that I had 10 years ago. So then you start having the same infection you had 10 years ago because your body can finally handle it. It couldn't handle it before, but now it can. But it's still annoying for you. So she was taking one spray and getting these retracing impetigos, and she said, I can't do this. I can't take this and have my skin get worse and worse. So once again, we tuned in and we just said, okay, you know, my friend's body, how many sprays should you take to get over this as quickly as possible? And we got 15 sprays, which she was terrified of, but she put it off till the weekend so that if her skin went super bad, she thought, I'll take 15 sprays, my skin will explode, and then maybe it'll be over for good. So she saved it for the weekend and took her 15 sprays, and her skin cleared up completely. It did not get worse. It only got better. And then it was over. So a lot of times, if you're having, trouble detoxing, if detoxing feels hard on your body, it is my opinion that you're not taking enough. You need to take more, because if you're just peeling off one little piece of the stack at a time, you're leaving a lot for your body to handle on its own. But if you take a lot more, it can help. Now, what is a lot more? It's going to depend person to person. Oh, and somebody says, what does TRS stand for? It stands for Toxin Removal System. So it's a system for removing toxins, TRS. So I have heard that it is hit and miss. Yeah, so that can kind of be true. Where I've seen that before is with people who have, they give their kid one spray. So I had this happen a couple of weeks ago. I think this lady, her kid was severely autistic. He had one spray and she felt like he got a lot worse. Somebody said give him a lot more, so she gave him 11 sprays and it didn't seem to help. So she's sitting there saying like, oh my gosh, this is the worst. And I tried to tell her 11 sprays is actually still not a lot. A lot to me, like for this particular instance, I'm saying 70, 80, 90. Like you would probably be fine giving this kid the entire bottle in a cup of water and just have him drink it. And that is when you would break through this. But when people get really scared because they take one spray, they don't feel good, they're sitting there feeling scared, and then they're too scared to try the solution that would actually take care of the whole stack of toxicity at once, right? And that reminds me of another story. It's here in this group somewhere, and it's a great story of this lady who, her kid had terrible eczema. She's giving her a couple sprays every day. Her eczema would like flare and get a little bit better and flare and get a little bit better. And then one day her daughter stole the TRS and drank the entire bottle. This mom is like, oh my gosh, you can't just drink a whole bottle. Next day, eczema gone. So she's been doing low and slow to be safe or whatever, because it feels good to make it stretch. Like if a bottle costs $50 in a 3-pack, right? You don't want to use it up all at once, but it's really not about how much time it takes to get through a bottle. It's about the volume of toxicity you're removing from your body. So in my understanding, which I could be wrong, but I believe how it is that each bottle of TRS basically can detox about 1 cubic centimeter of crap from your body. That's about how much it will slurp out into itself. And so to me, the issue is not how long does a bottle last. People always say, well, how long will it last? No, no, no. We don't think like that. We think, how fast can I clear my symptoms? That's, to me, the real thing that we need to be concerned about. How fast can I clear my symptoms, and how easily and how comfortably? If that means that I'm going to drink half a bottle today and half a bottle tomorrow, but my symptoms will resolve, to me, that's good. I'm not saying you should do that, because every person's body is different. You can't, I can't just sit here and say everyone will be better off if they just drink half a bottle today. I'm not saying that. If you're feeling good on 5 sprays a day, you should stay at 5 sprays a day. If you're feeling good at 1 spray a day, stay at 1 spray a day. But I'm just saying, if you are having a hard time with detox symptoms, drastically increasing your sprays is a very viable option that can make a big difference. Yeah, you're going to move through your bottle faster, but if it removes the symptoms, then I think that's a really good thing. We have a question, is TRS a homeopathic? And the answer is no. TRS is a mineral. TRS is a zeolite. It's a form of zeolite called clinoptilolite. And so zeolites are kind of shaped like meteorites or sponges, and I wish I had one around right in front of me, but I don't. But they're shaped like sponges or meteorites. And you know how meteorites and sponges have little holes. TRS zeolites are so strongly negatively charged that they kind of work as a magnet, and they slurp in all of the positively charged material that they pass. Okay, so they're the TRS is walking by our pile of toxicity, and all the toxic stuff gets like slurped inside of it. Okay, and then you just basically pee it out 6 hours later. So it is a mineral. Zeolites are minerals, and you can find them in nature. TRS is famously not from nature, which is great, because I'll tell you why. Zeolites are so powerful at attracting toxic waste that when you find it in nature, guess what it's already full of? The toxic waste from nature. Gross, dude, like sick. And so the natural zeolites that you find, and people will say, we have a natural zeolite, it's so natural. But the secret is that when you have a natural zeolite, that's not always that great, because if that zeolite vein in the ground was next to like a vein of arsenic or iron or radioactive waste, like all of that's going to get sucked into that zeolite. Zeolite's powerful stuff and it detoxes from nature too. So what happens with a landmined zeolite? They're going to mine it from the land, then they have to crush it up into powder themselves. That's going to release some, but not all, of the arsenic, the radioactive waste, the lead, whatever. And I'm not making any claims about anybody's particular other forms of zeolite, but just saying in general, like when we powder it, whatever's inside comes out and it's in the powder. Then they have to wash it, which also involves like weird chemicals, and like to me it's just disgusting. I'll just say it, for me it's gross. And then a natural zeolite, even as a powder, they can't powder it small enough to be as small as TRS. And I'll get to that in a minute. But basically what happens with landmined zeolite is that even if it's a liquid zeolite, it's another spray. Like there's lots of brands of spray zeolites that exist on the market. But you spray that zeolite, it's still natural zeolite, and it's still too big to be considered as water in your own body. So what's going to happen is your body's going to digest it like food. It's going to have to be basically pooped out, and if you're constipated, that's a problem, right? All that toxicity is going to sit in your gut and it can be reabsorbed, and then you're just causing trouble. You're just moving your toxicity around, and you're only detoxing from your digestive system. But what if your toxicity is in your brain, right? What if it's in your lungs? A natural zeolite is not going to get that stuff. I mean, like, it's a little more complicated than that, but basically, I vote against natural zeolite, and I am in love with TRS because TRS is a synthetic zeolite. This is what people, I mean, like, just like a synthetic diamond, you find a diamond in nature, and it's going to be not perfect. It's full of impurities because it came in nature, and nature doesn't make it perfect. When you get a bottle of TRS, the zeolites in there are all 100% perfect, just like a lab-grown diamond is 100% perfect. It's still the same exact chemical formula. It's just perfect. It just has no contaminants, which is great. It makes no sense to try and detox with a product that's full of toxicity. Like for me, that's like natural zeolite. For me, I want a sterile zeolite that I know does not come contaminated. And the thing with TRS is that it's because it is, produced in this sterile setting, they can create it so that it's a nano size, which means that for when you take TRS, your body's going to process it like water instead of like food. So it doesn't just detox from the digestive system, it's going to cross the blood-brain barrier and detox from your brain. It's going to detox from your lungs. It's going to detox from your bones. It's going to detox from your skin, all from just spraying it inside your mouth. You can still spray it topically and like on your skin and everything, but you spray it in your mouth because it's a nano zeolite. It's going to go anywhere in the body that you have toxicity, and it's going to encapsulate it into its tiny pockets, and then you're going to pee it out within about 6 hours. And so that's the thing. You don't have any chance of redistribution. And it's just so exciting. But that was the long answer to, is TRS a homeopathic? No, it is a mineral. And for us, I mean, TRS is like the perfect mineral. It's grown sterile and it's grown tiny so that it can be super effective. And this is why this group has, tens and tens of thousands of members of people that use this stuff and see massive shifts. And you maybe see some other like natural zeolites, people are still seeing some benefit, but it's like on a different level, right? We have this whole different level, and this is why. So anyway, TRS is not a homeopathic, it is a mineral, and in my opinion, it's like the top-notch mineral. I'll just mention for my own family, we've seen amazing things from TRS as far as, I started it because my 4-year-old had terrible eczema, and we'd go to the grocery store and people would say, "What are you doing to your child?" Because she'd be covered in blood, she's scratching her face, she's got pus everywhere. It was the worst. And I tried everything and nothing helped her. And I knew whenever you have a skin issue, it's a liver issue. And I knew that. And I thought, if I could detox her liver, but she's a baby, like she's like 4, I can't give her a liver detox. And so I found TRS and I thought, okay, I'm gonna give it a try. And you know what? 1 week in and her eczema was gone and it never came back. And that is what sold me on TRS. 8 weeks later, my kids get exposed to some egg. They all had egg allergies, but they did not react, which was astonishing to me. But Food reactions come from leaky gut. Leaky gut comes from toxicity. Detox your gut, and your gut can heal, and all of a sudden you can eat food that you couldn't previously eat because of toxicity. And for myself, I'd always had asthma, and the first couple weeks I was on TRS, I didn't know the secret I told you at the beginning of this video to take more. So I was going 5 sprays a day. Now I look back, I think, oh, I wish I'd taken 30 sprays a day. It would have gotten me through so much faster. But I didn't know that back then. So I started TRS and I started to cough. And I mean, I had a retracing illness of all my terrible respiratory illnesses from my entire life, which was about 30 years of life at that point. And so I coughed and coughed for 6 weeks. And then one day I stopped coughing and I have not really coughed again. I mean, I have never needed my inhaler ever again. So, so for me, sometimes, I mean, I know for myself, I went through this detox process. I was taking the 5 sprays a day. I wish I'd been taking 30 sprays a day. I think more would have helped me through that. But as my lungs were detoxing, it wasn't very comfortable. But after I got through it, my life has been amazing. I used to live in chronic fear of waking up with a cough because I would get 12 colds a year, and now I don't. And I know that it was my body trying to purge this toxic crap all along, and it couldn't. But then it could, and it did, and I coughed up all this stuff, and then I was fine. And it feels great to not need my inhaler. It feels great to look at it in my closet and see it gathering dust. I hope it gathers dust for the rest of my life. I'll be happy if I never need to use it again. So anyway, recap real quick. If you have detox symptoms, a lot of times increasing your sprays a lot can help. What is a lot? It will depend on you. You can ask your own body. And I know that can sound a little silly, but it can really work. Just ask yourself, you know, body, how many sprays should I take to get through this detox symptom comfortably? And you might get a little feeling in your mind like 10 sprays or like 15 sprays or like just drink the whole bottle. And if you just trust it, I really believe you're going to see for yourself that your detox symptoms go away and you're going to feel better than you did in the first place. So, okay, well, my baby woke up from her nap, so I'm going to go deal with that. But thank you so much for being here. Remember, if you're interested in TRS, to order from our group link, which is detoxwithtrs.com/order, detoxwithtrs.com/order. And I'm so glad you're here. I hope you have a great day.